Hey y'all, good morning. I'm Kaki Higgins and welcome to Kaki Higgins Knits. Today is Tuesday, October 19th, 2021, which is super hard to believe. I am coming to you from my home in central North Carolina, and we are just getting our first tastes of fall this week. This really invigorating, cool morning and beautiful, crisp air, clear blue skies. I love this season here. Certainly inspiring for knitting. So thanks for stopping by. I want to tell you a little bit about what I'm working on. And so a couple of things that I've recently finished, and just generally talk about knitting. The people who live in my house with me are kind of sick of hearing about knitting. So I am going to talk to you all about it. First, you can find me, Kaki Higgins Knits, on Instagram and Ravelry. And I am a sporadic poster on both of those, but I'm there. You can send me a message, ask me a question, let's connect. First, what I'm wearing. This is, I'm sure you've seen it before, the lovely Ranunculus sweater designed by Midori Heroes. And this is a quite ubiquitous sweater. Many people have knit it, and for good reason. It's a great pattern. Aside from the picture that's included with the pattern, or that picture aside, I think this is a highly wearable sweater. It's super comfortable. The fit is great. It was fun to knit. It was quick because it's on really big, like 10.5 needles, I think. And I have gotten a lot of wear out of this sweater. A couple of things I'll mention. This was the first time that I had ever done the tubular cast on. And it was one of those learning experiences in knitting where it did not make one bit of sense. I couldn't understand what in the world I was doing, but I just kept following the steps. And then all of a sudden, it clicked. All of a sudden, I saw what was happening and how it just kind of came together. And I really like this cast on. It's a little bit fiddly for sure. It's not super easy. I've done it a few times since, and I always have to look it up. But it just creates a nice edge where it seems like the rib just goes over the top and around the backside. So there's no line of yarn like a typical long tail or Norwegian cast on. And it's a really nice touch. This pattern, one unfortunate thing about this pattern, it only comes in one size. However, there is a addendum to the pattern with a bust adjustment for a little bit larger bust size. Now, there is a lot of ease built in, so it's fairly versatile, but it is limited in the fit. So I did the bust adjustment. I can't remember the measurements now, but usually I'm around a 43-inch bust. And with the amount of ease, I don't remember all those details, but anyway, I did the bust adjustment. That's what I remember. And I knit this with yarn from Webb's, which is the big store up in Massachusetts, also yarn.com. It was kind of a fun trip. I was on a business trip a few years ago and went by Webb's, and actually went back the next day and the next day because it was just such a cool store. But I got this yarn. This is their house brand. I think it's called Valley Yarns. And this is the their whatever their fingering weight superwash. Probably has some nylon in it. I don't really remember. And then silk mohair. Held those together and knit this sweater. Highly recommend it. It's a great pattern, super versatile. I wear it a lot. I will say it hasn't held up. It looks a little worn. It could be because I'm not super precious with this. And maybe if I were a little bit more careful, it would look a little more pristine. But that's okay. I knit things to wear and to use, and I don't mind I don't mind. Yeah, I'm still happy with it. All right, on to what I have finished and what I'm working on. So first up, the big finish that I have to show you is this quite large shawl. This is the Aloft shawl. It is a triangular lace shawl. The pattern is by Rebekah Berkompas, and it is published in Lina Magazine's 52 Weeks of Shawls book. I got that book last year when it came out, and this is the first thing I've knit from it. I'll give you an up-close look. So you can see there are two lace motifs. There are these, I think they remind me of flying geese, the flying geese knitting block. And then these here, which have a bobble. I don't love knitting bobbles. They're not my favorite. I find them kind of a pain, and they don't always stick out the way you want them to. But I did them. I followed the pattern. I did them all. I was tempted to start leaving them off, but no, I persevered. And yeah, it's a lovely shawl. It's so it's a triangular shape, so it means that you increase along the center spine and then along the edge, and that makes it grow in both directions as you knit. Another thing about this pattern is that there's an I-cord edge around the whole thing, all three sides, and I think it creates a really nice finish. However, it's not super stretchy, so I wanted to block it a little bit more than the I-cord would allow. So kind of a trade-off there. I'm not a super experienced lace knitter. I've done a few things, and I like it at times. This pattern was fairly straightforward, not super complicated, only lace on one side, so you know, purling back the other direction. I found it pretty easy to follow, and eventually I got into the rhythm after a few rounds of the repeat, and I'm happy with it. The yarn I used is Walk Collection Cottage Merino, and it is a single ply superwash merino yarn. I got a lot of it, maybe like 5 skeins or something, some years back, and it's just been sitting in search of a project. So I used about 2.5 skeins for this project. The color is called Squirrel, and I'm ambivalent. There were days when I would wake up and knit on this and think, Oh my gosh, this color is so incredible. It's like this rich tobacco, copper, orangey, really interesting rust color. And then there were days that I would look at it and I think, this is hideous. It's drab and dull. I still am not sure where I land. Some days I love it. Some days I think, nah, not for me. But anyway, do you have colors like that? Some that you both love and don't love? Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I guess I'm still, maybe I'm still learning my own tastes, but I'm happy with it and I recommend it. It was a good, good pattern. The other thing I thought I'd show you some socks that I knit. These are a little bit hard to show because I don't have sock blockers. I've never really seen the need to block my socks, but they would be nice for a podcast because you could actually see them. These are a sock I knit. A couple of months ago out of a West Yorkshire Spinners, I think it's their signature line. And they were designed by Kate Atherley. You may have come across her. She is a knitwear designer and tech editor, and boy does she know her stuff. She is really knows a lot, and I've learned a lot from her. And I also follow her on Twitter. And one day she said, hey, let's do a sock knit along. And then she tweeted out the pattern. And so that's this. It was a fun knit. Number one, I've never knit anything that I found on Twitter before. So that was unique. And then also the pattern, I forget what she called it, but it's a kind of like the fisherman's rib where you knit or purl in the row below. And it makes this really squishy kind of broken rib, kind of slouchy kind of sock. And it was a top down kind of traditional heel flap and gusset. And then the other new thing that I did in these socks was a sort of a spiral decrease toe. Never done that before. So usually you decrease, on both sides up and then Kitchener the top together. Well, this is more like if you think about a hat where you just are decreasing in equal equal distance all the way around, and then you get to a point. I wouldn't have thought this would work. It seems a little strange, and because whose feet end in a point? But it works great. These are super comfortable socks. They're a nice slouchy, baggy kind of cozy sock. And I've already washed these a couple of times. I throw them in the washing machine and in the dryer because I am not super precious about socks. Ain't nobody got time for that. At least I don't. So anyway, they're holding up. This was a fun knit. But yeah, you never know where you'll find knitting inspiration. Even Twitter, of all places. Yeah. So those are my two finished objects for today. Let me show you two things I'm working on. The first one is a cardigan that I'm knitting for my 5-year-old daughter. This is called the Flower Cardigan, and it's a pattern I bought on Ravelry, and it's by Ewelina Murach. I'm not sure how to say her name, and I apologize if I've butchered it, but let me show you this picture. It is really a clever, clever pattern, and I am enjoying knitting it. So it begins in the back, and you cast on in the center, and then you knit this really cool flower motif that becomes, it's kind of in the shape of a hexagon, and then the one side becomes the top neck, two sides become the armholes, and then the bottom three sides become sort of the bottom and the sides. And then she does some funky things with short rows and ribs and increases, and it is really cool. I'm amazed by people who take, you know, basically 2 stitches and create these fascinating 3D garments to wear. I'm knitting this out of a yarn that I bought in Brevard, North Carolina. This is Juniper Moon's Patagonia. Have you ever used this yarn? It is organic merino yarn from Argentina. It's very soft. It's not superwash. It's fairly rustic, so I do find some vegetable matter and straw or hay or whatever it is in this, but it's still very soft yarn. And it's a little bit, it's kind of one of those magical yarns that seems to be able to be knit at whatever gauge you need it to be. So there's a lot of yardage, 382 yards for one 100 gram skein. And on the label it says it's a number 3 light yarn, 21 to 24 stitches. Some places it's listed as a sport weight, some as a fingering or heavy fingering, and some as a DK. Well, this pattern calls for a DK yarn, and I got gauged just fine. So I don't really know, but I like it. I'm enjoying knitting with it. Like I said, it's soft. It is dry, which is a kind of a strange adjective to use for yarn, but there's something about it that feels a little bit dry. But it's soft, so I think it'll go well, work well for my daughter. All right, one more work in progress I'm going to show you. After I close the door so my dog doesn't come in again. This one, y'all. We got to talk about this. I don't know what I think. Okay, so I am doing the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. This is the second year I've done this. Last year, Slipstravaganza was my first time. And I really enjoyed the process. It was just an interesting ride to think, where's he going to go next? What in the world is, I hate this, I love this, oh, isn't this cool? Just to kind of watch my own reactions and responses as I participated. Well, y'all, I am having a lot of reactions and responses again this year. And I'm going to show it to you. So spoiler alert, turn it off, fast forward, do whatever if you don't want to see this because you're knitting along. But I'm going to show you my Shawlography, the 2021 Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. I just don't know. To me, it looks a little clownish, a little garish. I don't know if that's my color choice or the design or what, but I'm not loving it. So I was talking to my sister. She's also knitting this, and she said, well, here's a revolutionary thought. You don't actually have to finish it. And so I've been kind of sitting with that and thinking, is it time to throw in the towel? But honestly, I'm not ready to do that either. So I'm going to keep going, but I am quite ambivalent. I just don't know, y'all. I don't know what this is going to wind up being. I'm using a yarn that's really nice. This is Kelborn Woolen's Camper, which is the fingering weight version of Scout. So it's a pretty soft but non-superwash yarn, and it's got some really neat colors, and there are moments where I think, oh, those colors play very well together. But I just don't know, y'all. I don't know. There are bobbles, more bobbles. I don't love bobbles. Have I mentioned that before? Anyway, I don't know what else to say about this. Are you working on it? Have you had the same experience? Love it, hate it, maybe a little bit of both. Maybe that's a theme for this week's episode. I'm not sure. So we'll see where it goes. I'm going to keep going. I'll finish Clue 2, and we'll see what happens next week. The knit along, the participatory aspect of it is really fun, I have to say. It's neat to see what other people are choosing and their colors, and there is kind of a fun thing that comes out of participating. And truthfully, learning about my own self, watching my reactions and responses, and that's been an insightful experience. So we'll see what comes. I'm going to stick with it for now, and I'll keep you posted. So I'll tell you about a couple of things that I have added to my stash that have no clear purpose at this point. The first one is a ball of yarn that I just could not pass up. This is a Noro yarn called Akari. Do you know this yarn? I just find the put up is just so enticing. I love the way it looks and the feel. I have no idea what I'm going to knit with this. But as I said, this is called Akari, and it has silk, cotton, viscose, mohair, wool, and polyamide. And so I don't know what this is going to be, but I will tell you that there's a cool experience of buying this yarn about, I don't know, a month or so, 3 weeks ago. I went on a solo road trip. After a very intense work period over the summer, my husband said, you need to get away and you need to go by yourself and go do something fun. So I went to the mountains of North Carolina and spent some time in Black Mountain and Asheville, and then made my way down to visit some friends in Atlanta, and then back home. And of course, there's the wonderful, luxurious Black Mountain yarn store in Black Mountain, just outside of Asheville. And I did go in there a couple of times and petted a lot of really lovely, beautiful yarn. And then I also went to a store in Asheville called Pearl's Emporium. And it was cool. They had some really neat stuff. So they didn't have the, like all of the name brand, super fancy, high-end, indie dyed yarn that Black Mountain has. But they also had some really, really cool stuff. They had Peace Fleece. They had a good bit of Noro. They had Juniper Moon. A lot of Malabrigo. They had some great yarns. But the cool thing about it, so the owner was there when I was shopping, and turns out she is a graduate of the same graduate program that I went to in New York, and she was there couple of years ahead of me. But I knew her name because she had sort of a legacy at the school because she had done some very interesting ritual and liturgical arts projects. And her name is Elizabeth Shell, and Shell. And now she lives in Asheville and has a yarn store, and it was really neat to connect with her and to just have that sense of, paths crossing, diverging, crossing. They kind of form this web and this network that makes me feel connected and grounded in life, I guess. I mean, that sounds so woo-woo, but it was really a cool experience. And of course I couldn't leave her yarn shop without buying something. So I got this. I don't know what it will become. I think I've said that about 800 times. But I have no doubt that I will think about that trip and Union Seminary and, all of the different threads that come together in this yarn. So one more thing I want to tell you about. Maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, I saw an advertisement that Farmer's Daughter Fibers was doing a yarn subscription program based on Dolly Parton. And I could not pass this up. I've never done a yarn subscription program before. It's not typically the way I buy yarn or think about projects or building my stash or anything like that. But I just could not pass up Dolly Parton. She is, I've been a fan for a long time. And so the plan, they had 2 different versions of the plan, and one included a skein of yarn each month and then some kind of Dolly swag. I missed out on that one. That one sold out pretty quickly. But I did sign up for the Dolly Parton, just the yarn. And so I'm going to show you what I got. So the first one is this one. The color name is Do I Ever Cross Your Mind? And it's kind of this wheat colored, I might say, with some blue and some teal speckles. The base that I chose was the Pentler sock, which is 75% merino, 25% nylon. And it feels great. It feels really nice. I wasn't super thrilled with this. It's not really my color. But I thought, okay, we'll keep going. We'll see. Month number 2, knocked it out of the park. I'm going to show you that one last because it's my favorite. And then months 3, 4, and 5 have been each a speckled yarn. So this first one is called 9 to 5. And it's kind of a whiter base. And it's got brown and teal and that electric lime. Pretty fun. The next one is called Wildflowers. And it's got a number of colors. Blue, some orange, some of that electric yellow, some pink, more blue. That's Wildflowers. And then this one is Just Because I'm a Woman. And you can see it is pink, really bright pink, and brown on the same white color base. Now, the one that really, this is amazing. I will just love this color. This is called the Seeker. And it's a kind of bluish purple with these really pretty speckles of red, magenta. Oh, I just love it. I love it. I love it so much. Yeah. So 1 I'm not crazy about. 3 are pretty interesting. I think I'll keep those around. And then 1 I really, really love. So Dolly Parton yarn from Farmer's Daughter Fibers, made in Montana. And those are my stash acquisitions. I got lots of knitting to do, y'all. Projects I'm working on. The queue is getting longer and longer and longer. And so I got to get to knitting. Please, thanks for stopping by. I hope you've enjoyed this chat, and drop me a note below. Say hello. Tell me what you're working on, especially if you're doing the Stephen West shawl. Oh boy. But I'd love to get to know you a little bit better. Thanks so much, y'all. Take care. Happy knitting. Bye-bye.